couple people thought I should try to come out of the tent, but that would have cut 15 minutes out of my 20 minutes to get myself out of there. So it would have been entertaining for all of you, quite embarrassing for me. So I'll talk a little bit about, I want to talk about the Knight Foundation project that we're working on mostly, but I wanted to give you some context on that by talking about what BillyPen, what we're doing at BillyPen. Sorry. Am I hitting the right? Oh, I don't think that was a good button. All right, what am I missing in this very seemingly simple? What just happened? All right. Why am I not moving here? I'm sorry. For some reason I'm not, what am I? It's not my fault. Brian's assured us it's not my fault. But I'm not sure why. I'm not seem to be advancing the slides here. All right. Well, what's that? That's what I thought I was hitting, but all right. Maybe I wasn't. Thank you very much for the help. As you can see, very strong on technology. So I'll talk a little bit about what BillyPen is first, so it has some context for why we're doing this thing with the Knight Foundation. It's a site based in Philadelphia aimed at young Philadelphia news consumers. The idea being they're looking for a very different kind of news than your 35 and older news consumers. They're interested in more civic engagement. They want more voice, more attitude. Obviously, if you're producing for 35 and under, you're producing for yourself, for your phone first. So if you look at the site on desktop, you might be somewhat unimpressed by its design, but it's not designed to look best on desktop. It's actually designed to look much better on mobile and function from a user experience standpoint, much better on mobile. No pop-ups, no pagination, nothing that inhibits your ability to get the news and information you want. And we're very heavy on curation. And we're big believers in the idea that if you care about news in a particular city, you want to know anything interesting about that city, whether you wrote it or somebody else wrote it. And this, to me, remains one of the great mysteries of a lot of legacy media in big cities. Still don't understand that linking out is actually a huge service to their audience and probably will help build loyalty and sustain readership. Instead, they act like pointing out would tip people off to the fact that there are other news organizations in their city, which any smart news consumer has already known for years. So what we try to do is provide a very simple, easy in, easy out way for young people to find out what's going on in the city. Have some nice accomplishments out of the gate. We were the Startup of the Year in Philadelphia. Geekadelphia does the Geek Awards every year, and we were named the Startup of the Year, and this is across all categories, not in media, but in all categories. We're actually partnering with PolitiFact right now to be PolitiFact Pennsylvania. We're the first digital independent to actually be one of their state partners, and we're very proud of that. Also, we're the only digital independent to get invited to start with Facebook Instant Articles, which we launched on about 2 weeks ago. And we were nominated for an OJA last year for our coverage of the Amtrak tragedy. So far, so good. And we've made a lot of our money in events so far, about 85% of our revenue in events and bringing our audience into a room or into an event somewhere so they can talk to each other. And we've gotten written about a lot, but I'll skip that. But the other thing I didn't mention is we got a $108,000 grant from the Knight Foundation, and that's why I'm here to talk about what we're doing there. So what the hell is the mobile playbook? That is what we got $108,000 to build. And it's one of those great phrases that doesn't mean a whole lot. But I want to give you the road to doing the mobile playbook and the thinking behind it. It's a journalistic response to the sharing economy, right? All these other industries are popping up and figuring out that sharing is what drives a lot of the economic engines of that business. Journalism has not always really operated that way, right? So legacy media, and I don't mean, every time I say that term it sounds so derogatory. I don't really mean it that way, but legacy media just means the long-standing established media companies have historically viewed sharing like this. I don't want to tell you, why would I tell you anything about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it? All that could do would be to help you figure out how to actually do what I'm doing better than I'm doing it. So why would I possibly give you any intelligence or any learnings or help you out at all to figure any of this stuff out? And why is that? I mean, some legitimate reasons. In the past, besting foes was a matter of life or death for a lot of publications. If you were in a city and there was another paper in town, helping them out really could mean your demise. And this is not some esoteric phrase. I mean, this is literally all these places going out of stop printing or going out of business altogether. So when you were living in this world where there were 2, 3 papers in a city, it's going back a ways to anyway, that were 3 really, but 2 paper cities were becoming 1 paper cities, 3 newspaper towns were becoming 1 newspaper towns, and the whole idea that you were going to share information just wasn't really going to happen. And You might be willing to share information with your friends in the industry or on the other side of the country, but pre-internet, that kind of communication really didn't happen. It was a lot harder than it is today. So sharing wasn't only discouraged, it was viewed as a sign of disloyalty. What do you mean you told the guy across town, how to better produce, or told him about this really good idea, a really good staffer that they might be able to hire? I mean, you can't do that. You're completely screwing us by doing that. And then came digital, and this maybe is a bit of an overstatement, but felt really, digital came in like there was just a little bit of a different mindset right from the beginning. We had the communication tools, obviously, to help communicate some, but we also had a different mindset. We started out, I think digital journalists started out with a little bit different view of what would happen if we didn't all work together. Right? I mean, we were fighting for our lives at this point now. We weren't trying to figure out who was going to have a 30% profit margin versus who was going to have a 20% profit margin. We were trying to figure out if we were going to make it or we weren't going to make it, and whether we were all going to go down together. And it sort of created a little bit of a mindset of, you know what, I mean, this isn't just a good idea, it's a necessary one. When there are good ideas that can be applied about how to produce good journalism, how to make money, how to design products, how to make a good user experience, if any of those things were being built upon, then we ought to tell as many people as we can about those things. And this was a bit of a culture shock in a lot of, and I've spent most of my 21 years in digital now in legacy newsrooms, and this was not an easy shift for people to make. I worked at, legacy newsrooms where they didn't want you to go to conferences. What are you going to do by going? You're going to speak at a conference? What are you going to tell them? Well, I'm going to tell them what we're doing. Why would you tell them what we're doing? You want me to go and just tell them all this stuff we're not doing? I could just go and lie and tell them a bunch of really bad ideas and hope everybody runs with them, but that doesn't seem like a particularly good idea for journalism. But it took a while for people to get around this idea that sharing is a good thing. And there's a name for this phenomenon, and I've called it for years, huddling for warmth, right? At some point, we're either going to figure this out as a group or we're not. But we have to work together as much as we can. And so we've done that. We've done really good job, I think, of working together and sharing information. But there's a problem. And the problem is not the willingness to share, right? There's no hesitation of sharing. I mean, sharing happens as soon as you can put a couple of people together anywhere and say, tell me what you're working on, tell me what you've learned. The problem is this sharing tends to be circulating around one particular item. It's at conferences, in bars at conferences. It's sitting around a bar talking to a friend, or it's occasionally, obviously we do some of this on Twitter, but a lot of the great moments, like the Online News Association, or you go to IRE, you can go to JI, you can go to all these conferences every year where there's a massive amount of good information shared, but there's really no formal way to connect the dots between these huge conferences. Yes, again, there's always online platforms, but in terms of getting people together, showing the work, we just, didn't feel like that was enough of a continuum through the whole year. And more importantly, there are only so many conferences for any one liver to handle. So the question became for us was, how do we formalize the sharing that we do socially into something more scalable? How do we take all this information that we're gathering that is in all these disparate places, social media, in person, and try to gather it in one place so that people have some place to go to actually figure out what it is they need to know about a particular type of journalism in this case. So I talked to the Knight Foundation. I did not have a mic in front of me when I was talking to them. It's the best I could do on that. And the idea was the mobile playbook. And what I wanted to do is pick off one particular type of journalism, the type of journalism that we're focused a lot on at BillyPen, and try to build this structure around one particular thing to start with. Not to try to go out and say, let's do a playbook for all of journalism. It's a little big, a little grand, and just probably completely unattainable. So we wanted to bite off the mobile piece of it specifically. And so I'm sure why mobile is not much of a mystery to anybody here. But here's a couple of data points which are useful. I mean, it's been 2014 was actually the tipping point for internet access for mobile. Everybody's got a smartphone now. But the item I really like the most here is 93% of millennials think their smartphones are among their most important possessions, which is 2% more than toothbrushes got and 6% more than deodorant. So if you encounter a very smelly, yellow-toothed millennial on the streets, they probably still have a phone. And so this has become the thing that is the centerpiece of their day-to-day life now for younger news consumers. And so if we as the journalism community can't figure out how to deliver news to them on those platforms in an effective way, we are truly doomed going down the road a little bit. If you just literally do the math on that, we have to be able to communicate better via mobile as from a journalism standpoint than we do now. So what is this specifically? It's a chance to share successes, failures, and ideas with the entire digital journalism community. And so this is an online, excuse me, this is an online product that encompasses the whole range of information here. Let me skip one here. What it'll include are examples of good mobile storytelling, reviews of mobile journalism tools, examples of monetization strategies, because one of the things we felt strongly about in pitching this was that what you don't want to do is build a journalism playbook now that literally is just the actual journalism part, because I think we made a huge mistake in this industry for way too long by newsrooms paying no attention to how the companies they were working for made money. A lot of smart people in newsrooms that have a lot of smart ideas about lots of different things, and to cut them off and say, you just go do the work and we'll let everybody else figure out the monetization piece, I think was a mistake, and I think it's important for us to figure out how we're going to monetize mobile, and I think we all ought to be sharing those strategies the same way we share the ones about producing the actual work. And also it's a place to share research and academic papers on mobile. It's a place where people could communicate, give, and get advice. It's also a place where we can do job listings for mobile-focused positions. So it's a place where hopefully people will start to get around and think, I'm trying to produce specific projects for this new platform, and obviously this will be segmented, but you'll be able to look at things that are done on an iPhone or an Android or an iPad or an iWatch and all the other mobile devices that are sure to come. So this is mobile is, without, obviously we all know that mobile as a general term is so becoming so broad so quickly that it's almost not descriptive enough anymore. But for the purposes of this discussion, we'll stick with the idea that it's largely phones and tablets for the time being, although that will change. But the idea would be, we've got to get people involved in it, and that exposes the one huge problem, if you get the Trump reference here, huge, is that, as we've learned plenty of times, if everybody owns it, nobody owns it. So these two guys obviously thought the other guy owned catching the pop fly. Neither of them did it. So what we didn't want to do was say, like, well, let's just build this mobile platform. Let's build this thing where anybody can put in any information they want about what it is they're going to do, what they're doing in mobile. And then I'm sure everyone will just show up and fill it with stuff, because we all know that's how things always work. Build something, send a link out, and thousands of people come and fill it with information. We know that that's not the way things work. So that somebody has to own this, which is what we volunteered to do. So BillyPen, with this grant from Knight, will kickstart and maintain this to assure that it's a living, breathing document that is continually being updated by somebody. Because we think that even just having a small team of people who are keeping this thing alive will allow other people to be more engaged with it as well. And that role will mean putting new information and tapping other people to say, hey, you guys did an amazing project, an amazing VR project. Can you get us some details that we can actually put it into this document? So we'll take ownership of this. We obviously, with the mighty staff of 8 that we have, we're not going to be able to keep this thing fully rolling ourselves. We do need contributions from outside. But by putting somebody at the heart of it, we feel like that'll give it an opportunity to succeed. And if it works, I think the goal is simple, and I think Knight shares this general view that if we could figure out how to do this for mobile, then we could expand the sharing economy and help others build similar playbooks. We're not signing up to necessarily build other ones because somebody probably should do a data journalism or a data viz playbook, but being that nobody at BillyPen is a particular expert on that, it doesn't make any sense for us to do it, but somebody out there could take the lead on doing that. Same thing for video journalism, same thing for any type of journalism, investigative. So we're hoping that we can set an example here by doing this well to help Knight, maybe get some other people to sign up to do things as well, do similar ones as well. So the timing for us is this: we're hiring a project lead now. We're talking to people now to see who wants to come in and help us run the project of getting this off the ground, launching it. In this summer, we hope to launch a light beta. It will not be fully formed yet, but it'll at least share, there'll be enough information in there across all the different parts of what I've mentioned so that you can get a sense of what it would look like fully fleshed out. We'll tap certain news organizations or people who we think would be good people to help us start filling this up in addition to what we're going to do on our own. And in the fall, after we've got the first first site out, hopefully be able to build on that by adding a whole other set of contributors, add site features, make it a little bit deeper, a little more functionality heavy. And then winter roll out the expanded site where we would view as sort of the full first version of what it is we're trying to do. And the hope is we can leverage what we have seen in the 20 years of digital journalism, which is a way to a little more formally take all this wonderful attitude that people working in digital journalism have had for 20 years of sharing information and sharing not only successes, but sharing failures. I mean, the beautiful thing about everybody in this room is if I went around and said, tell me your one biggest success, everybody can answer that, but I bet you can answer the biggest failure faster. Like we remember the things that didn't go so well. They really stick with us, and we've probably told a lot of other people about those things in the hope of helping them avoid making the same mistakes. And it's that two-way sharing of positives and negatives that I think has really, to me, has been the most inspiring thing I've seen since I've been in this business. And I think this was an attempt to figure out some way to formalize it in a way that could be useful to the broader community that doesn't get to go to conferences like this, or doesn't get to go to O&A, or doesn't, just doesn't have the ability, or is working out in the sticks somewhere where the best they can do is talk to people via social media. We want to give everybody a place that's a little egalitarian to show up and share their best ideas and best thoughts to help move us forward, because citing those stats that I mentioned earlier, if we don't figure mobile out based on how usage patterns, especially of younger news consumers, are going, I think we can all pretty much, we could see the end of the line. So it's very important for us to figure out mobile. It's very important to figure it out together, and this is the way we best think we can do it. I got left 4 minutes, so I can go in and out of the tent a few times if you want. No. Thank you.